I'm giving this for free because I want things to change, and I want just a handful of individuals to listen to this material and just take this and say, I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to take this to the next level. I'm going to improve upon this and make something even better, and I'm going to become part of the solution instead of just, and I've been an observer for the majority of my life, but if you want to transition from being an observer and a student to someone who can manifest change through education, this is one of the goals of why I'm even out in the public, because I definitely did not want to go public. I just figured it's too late for the humanity, and forget it. It's not too late for humanity, and it isn't, forget it. I came to that conclusion through the help of very, very wise individuals, much older than me, who helped me.
Rainbow Bridge and color code. This is where we define what evidence and compassion are, right? The yin and the yang, the black and the white. And we will utilize those two properties to where we create a third, which is the union between evidence and compassion, right? Which we describe as morality. And in this sense, in the game in which we have connect through a process I lovingly call the Rainbow Bridge. This is where you add color to your life, your game of life, right? And morality is something that we cannot change. It is permanent. It is built within the fabric and nature of our reality. It is natural law. It is virtue. It is principle itself. And they are represented through aspects that are in harmony with a numbering system as well as a color system, right? Red shift, blue shift. I'm going to use very specific words here as an encryption process, so that way the people who are participating in this next experiment, right? This is the Gen Unity experiment, okay? Where you find your authenticity and your identity through the process of personality and character. Personality and character being the internal impressions, and personality being the external expressions. And how you build that particular trinity here is what we're going to talk about. Is we need to separate our system into degrees and levels and ranges and all these kind of things, because what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be creating a harmony, okay, between our local and our aggregated systems. So that way, all the things that we do, we can build an organizational process for memory recall and for efficiency and effectiveness. So that way we can fine-tune all of our skills and our talents. And this fine-tuning actually requires us to participate in order to do that. So a lot of these videos that you may have heard, they're just going to be for entertainment purposes, and this is why we created this game, because I assure you, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is not a game to me, but I want to present it to you as a game, so that way you can move about your experiences and your perspectives, and then you can see for yourself, right? Evidence and compassion. This is what we designed into the Trinity, in which you've just recently learned. Evidence being the masculine, active, perspective, electricity, force part of your matrix, okay? Of your personal matrix, because we're building this into our body, right? All of this pertains to our bodies here. And we explored evidence through the experiment called Trinity. And that process, you can go back and you can review and organize your understanding of how force works. It's kind of like the Jedi, as opposed to the Lash Factor, which was designed to teach you about power and the feminine forces. And there are, different models in which you can utilize depending on the type of player you want to be in the game of life, right? So you can be a hero, or you can be a villain, or you can be an in-between. An in-between is like from the Echo experiment as well. And there's also the private experiment. And then there's like the simulation one too, which we don't talk too much about, but the simulation has a trinity built in it as well. Think of that one more in line with AI, the 5G and alternative technologies, and then the blockchain. That's the trinity for the simulation. And when you put those together, you build a body, and the body we refer to as the archon. Now, this is different also from the domination matrix. And the domination matrix is the body there is actually the harvester, right? And the three aspects that build a harvester are the color blue. Again, I'm using a lot of code here. This is important later on because when you play the game, you're going to notice that these things all are in relationship because the goal here is to find harmony, right? So you have blue, passive, feminine within the harvest matrix as commerce, which is the financial system, okay? And then you have the other leg to the other, part to the trinity of the harvest or domination matrix, right? The control matrix. You will have red or fire element, and that will be the legal and military. And then you have the top of the pyramid, which will be air, and that is transportation. And then what we'll do is, since we've explained how evidence and compassion have a relationship to each other, that is the black and the white nature, evidence being the white, Trinity experiment, compassion being the black, and that is pressure, if you will, as well. It's another term you can use when you're building your organizational chart, and that one is the lash factor experiment. Okay, now the private experiment is the body within the other three that we've discussed. Okay, the echo being the top of the pyramid in this sense. So that is the balancing point. Okay, this is how deprogramming works, and then you are reprogramming in harmony with all of the elements that exist within your life. That these experiments are built for the future, not necessarily for the present, because there's a shift that needs to take place within the human experience. And experience is going to be actually the power part, the feminine, passive power and magnetic aspect to our reality. And this builds into what morality is, okay? So you have the feminine compassion, passive, magnetic, okay, compassion. The internal, all right, experience is is what you receive as a reward for participating within compassion, okay. That is the byproduct of your efforts is experience. And then you have evidence, and then the evidence is force, right? Masculine, active principles. And principles are the correct term because when you blend evidence and compassion, evidence is facts, a very particular thing, a particle, if you will, as opposed to compassion being the wave, okay, how it affects others, as opposed to the particle, how it affects self and how it affects that which you are trying to have a relationship with, having a connection with, okay? All of these principles, when they blend together, when the black and the white blend together, the masculine and the feminine, the up and the down, the yin and the yang, all these concepts in which there is a dualistic component. In other words, there is but it's infinite in its understanding. In other words, each one of us plays a role in how to define the infinite nature of our reality. So each one of us are very, very special because we all have experience and perspective to add to the collective, which we all can agree on that this is the way the world should be. So by exploring the basics, the foundational parts of the game itself, right, through evidence and compassion, and you start building your structure, you move into the world of color. And in the world of color is the morality matrix, which is that which you cannot change. It is permanent. It is fixed. It is built into the fabric of our reality that no matter what we do, it is always going to manifest itself in the way it chooses outside of our will and our desire. And so there is a cohesion and intelligence greater than our own that is operating outside of the influences of the human experience. Therefore, you can build this aspect within your game, and the trinity of your game here is you can use this as a weapon, a tool, or a spell. Okay? And you can have opponents and enemies and challenges. It all depends on how you want to participate within the game of life, right? Each one of us is different. So when you add color, you're adding morality. The morality and color are connected into your body like the chakras. And there are 7 general principles in which your chakras express themselves and also take in information too, right? So let's use evidence and compassion as the black and the white aspects of color for ourselves, right? This, again, the foundational principles like the checkerboard, right? Everything has its opposites within the infinite nature of our reality, where all possibilities and all probabilities exist, and then through our experiences, we are the ones who put boundaries on things in order to understand the world in which we live within, and also in how to get along with others. So there are agreements and contracts in which we all have regarding the system. So we use the black being the pressure, feminine aspects, and then we have the white, which we'll use as the masculine, active aspects. And so when we build our color matrix between those 2 extremes, we come up with the top of our head to the bottom of our feet, and we can best associate to those as natural law. And natural law is, again, something we cannot break. It is just part of the fabric of our reality. Like when we look at the stars are in the same position relative to each other for eternity, at least as far as we know. They are moving as one piece, like one canvas, okay? So it shows us the morality matrix is that actually just pointing out the permanent nature and the permanent aspects of our reality. In other words, the laws in which each one of us have to follow. All right. And again, they are structured in the body. So move at the top of your head. We'll go through each one of the natural laws that are built within this matrix that we all have choice on how we like to utilize these for our game. Okay. So again, these are the rules, the unbreakable rules. 1, mentalism. Okay. And that is like thoughts become things. Words matter. You can program reality. The second is the principle of correspondence, right? And this is where you find evidence, and that evidence gives you perspective, all right? As above, so below is the principle of correspondence. The third law is vibration, which is motion, action, and aim, where everything moves and vibrates, okay? The infinite of the extremes themselves have vibration built in. The fourth is polarity. And polarity is everything has its pair of opposites, right? And the fifth is rhythm. And rhythm is like breath. Rhythm is everything flows in and out like the tides, right? This is aspects of rhythm. The sixth is cause and effect, what I lovingly call karma. And this is part of where time and space begins to be built, where there's a natural balance of all of our acts and our deeds, and where we can change the movie. We can change the program through cause and effect, okay? But these are principles in which all of us have no choice but to participate within. And you're welcome to explore these on your own and discover these and see what you can and cannot do with them. This is, again, part of the game. And there are levels, degrees, aspects, merits, all these different parts that you can build within your system. This is why there are angles to each of these. So after cause and effect, which is the sixth, you have the seventh, which is gender. And that's your form and your style, where everything has a masculine and feminine property built into them, where sex is also a part of it. And sex is generation, regeneration, and creation. But you have to be careful, though, because there is a corruption that can happen on each one of these levels as well, where if you want to abuse sex, then what happens is you will receive lust and perversion and depravity and these things. So, remember, when you are exploring these, again, these can be used as weapons, tools, and spells. Those are the general 7 in which you find, like in the Hermetic principles and different, natural law itself. But I encourage you to just explore these and see how they work within your environment and the way you want to play your game. Now you'll notice that these main 7 here of, let's go over one more time: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. We can actually take that even a step further when you look at the rules of the game. When you go into 8, what you are entering into is care. And care is actually where you can provide influence, motivation, and it's really like the center of compassion itself. And then you have 9, which I like to call the spark or the ignition itself. And in this one, you find great treasure and great reward because you receive vitality and fidelity, right? Things become much clearer. Your thoughts are your own. Health and wealth seem to blend together in unison. And a lot of people call the 9 mastery as well because it has this type of flavor associated to it. And then 10, in which you learned here on this channel going through the experiments, is imagination, right? And intention and action itself, what you actually did, how you did it. And that is where you find joy and purpose. One of the goals of the game, again, is your pursuit of happiness. And you find that through exploring imagination as well. And bringing all these together, you'll find that the experiments in which were provided here, like the Trinity experiment, is based off the first 3, 1, 2, and 3. The Trinity experiments is about force, where 4, 5, and 6 was about balance, about the echo experiment was how we performed that. It's like the heart of it, right? The fire itself, or force, was like the air. And within this one, within the echo experiment, we discovered breathing in and breathing out, and also the pause, the into, the out of, all these concepts as well. And that was 4, 5, and 6 within these natural laws. And then 7, 8, and 9 would be the power experiments, the lash factor, okay? Where we also were discovering behavior, okay? Where the balance, the echo experiment, was more about will and desire. And the force was about reason and intellect. What are your reasons? Okay? So, and then 10 is imagination, where all possibilities are included. So that one has to exist outside of the boundaries in which we structured here with these 10 different principles in which we built into the game. You can now decide which aspects of this game you find of value, what you find are treasures to you: knowledge, wealth, health. Again, you have choice. But the reason why your choice is now in a different position is because your choice is built in the trinity of evidence, compassion, and morality. So now that we've established morality to natural law, and we've given it color, a spectrum, right, an interface for us to enjoy, right, for our pursuit of happiness, of joy and purpose, now we can incorporate these into how we go about playing a game, right? Because we have the guidelines that govern our play. And one of the things that we may discover is that there are challenges that exist within the world. There are things that just aren't quite right. And you can easily recognize these things because they don't respond in harmony with all the other aspects in which you enjoy when you move about your day. In other words, there is friction. And you can choose to ignore that friction, or you can choose to accept it as a challenge. One that has correction in mind. This harmony matrix is designed to use all probabilities and collapse them into the ever-present now for you, and where your choices are in harmony with all the other aspects around you, and you move about with efficiency and ease, or you're moving with enjoyment, okay? So within the game, within the domination matrix, there are the trinity for that, again, is commerce, which has the corporation and the financial side, right? Military, which also has legal, and then you have transportation. So I like to use transportation as the vehicle for our journey and our quest. So when we go out into the world on the roads, which are black, right? And black is control within the domination matrix. See, what you'll find interesting is within timeline management, you'll discover that this technology has been around for a very long time. Again, I am not teaching you anything you don't already know, because all I'm doing is showing you it's been right in front of you the whole time. And this is what makes the game so enjoyable, because you can spot it literally everywhere, okay? And every color that you see on the street signs in which you journey about your day are built within the chakras of your body systems, from white at the top all the way to black at the bottom, and then the color spectrum is in the middle. So with morality, you get to find natural law. Now let's look at ethics, and we get to see man's law and how that part is structured. And people can associate good and bad, or anything they want, right and wrong, anything they want to these, but you will discover that white within the domination matrix, when you look at street signs, right, like 55 miles an hour, there's white and there's black, which means offering and control. They're offering you a number that you, in the control, where you cannot go beyond that number, okay? They're speaking to you in their own language. So you have white, offering. You have purple, sovereignty. You have blue, which is commerce. Again, we discussed that, so you'll notice that blue will be presented when it comes to corporations and finance. You know, you'll see a lot of this. Water, okay, that color. The gut as well is important here, because there is a connection when you speak or eat, because it's about what you feed, okay? And it's connected, you know, your throat is connected to your gut, right? So this is part of how the elements work as well, of earth, air, water, and fire. Earth being the body, air being the mind, fire being the heart, and water being the gut. So again, that's the blue is commerce. Green, when you see a sign on the side of the road, when you go about your day and you see that it's green, you'll know that they're speaking of service. Yellow is activity. Orange, when you see the orange cones, orange means change. Okay? Red is priority. Brown, when you see a brown sign, usually it's a museum or something like that, right? That means culture. And then black is control. So you'll notice also that these experiments in which we performed here, with the Trinity experiment being the first three, the Echo experiment being the second three, and then the third three being the Lash Factor experiment, and then the last one, which is gray, that is part of imagination, 50 Shades of Gray, all these different, aspects in which we use. Gray within the domination matrix is support. So now that you have the encryption in the code, go about and test these ideas, and really experiment with how timeline management works. Because when you come here on this channel, this is what you learn. You learn remote viewing, time travel, and magic. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. I know this is a long one, but I think it was important that we explain a lot of different aspects, because when we bring up rules, I think it's important to be definitive, and also to go out and find the evidence to support it. And so now that you have these properties, these principles and virtues, I hope that you put them into practice on your own. Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a great day. Cheers.